All right, let's get started with Affinity Designer and create a low content book. But before we dive into Affinity Designer, we need to have something to create. So over at Amazon, I did a search, spell book for new witches, and I found some pretty interesting books to sort of get an idea of where to start with what we're going to look at today in Affinity Designer. Which takes me over to Tangent Templates to get started, because staring at a blank page, just like I talked about in this video up here in the right hand corner, is quite hard for me. So that's the beauty of Tangent Templates and the power of Affinity Designer when you add the two together. So we're going to grab this Grimoire or the spell paper, and what we're going to do is edit the spell paper in Affinity Designer, but we're going to take this a step further as well. We're going to go into Tangent Builder. And what we're going to do is we're going to select design. I'm going to change this to 6x9, and then we're going to select the design here, and we're going to scroll down, and we are going to grab this spell paper, and we're going to add another page. And on this page, what we're going to do is we're going to add a little something extra, and we're going to add this half wide ruled, half blank paper, and then we're going to download that PDF. Then we're going to go back to Affinity Designer. We're going to close this banner out here, and we're going to File, Open, and we're going to open the PDF that we created in Affinity Designer. Here we're just going to take this as its default for now because we're still learning, so we'll just move along and keep this super basic. Of course, like I showed in the other video that I mentioned when I was talking about the blank paper and staring at it, it's very simple just to come in here, ungroup all, and at that point you are coming in and you are looking for a different type of font. We're going to go ahead and grab this font right here, and you just go through and you just change these to the font that you selected, and you just work your way through and change each one. Then once that's finished, you have all the fonts changed. Of course, I missed these right here. Now they're changed. Now what you see here is an issue, and what we're going to do is we're just going to stretch this a little bit and give the words a little extra room inside of the box. You could do the same down here if you wanted to stretch these across. Problem here is I don't think you're going to be able to get it, find enough space. So then you might have to play around with that font or widen or change the box. But at this point, we accomplished what we were trying to do, simply just changing the font. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to add an image inside of this second page to make this a little more unique. And to do that, we're going to use this place image tool. But before we do that, we need to find a cool image. And I found this cool image, or what I think is a cool image. Part of doing this as well is the research. So make sure that this image meets up with the idea of the book that you're creating. But this is really just to demonstrate how we can take this type of image that we find over in Creative Fabrica and download, then come back to Affinity Designer, open up the image tool, Witches and Wizards, bring in the PNG, drop it in right there, resize it to the size we want, then drop it in right there, and then there we have the grimoire paper or the spell paper, and we've changed the font, and the font sort of matches the same type of font that we have inside of our image. And now at this point, this is sort of where I'm going to cut off the Affinity Designer tutorial or showing you how to use that, because really at this stage inside of Affinity Designer, creating multiple pages is not something I figured out, and honestly I'm not sure that you can do it. If adding multiple pages or copying and pasting or duplicating multiple pages inside of Affinity Designer is something that you know how to do, please drop that in the comments and let me know. I haven't quite figured that out yet. I think you may need Affinity Publisher to do that, but the idea here is to learn Affinity Designer and how it can help us to create these KDP low content books. And of course, I'm learning Affinity Designer and sharing with you as I learn. So if you know how to do it, please drop in the comments. And at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to export this as a PNG, and we're going to export each page individually. So we'll go ahead and export page 1. That will export right there, and then we'll come back up, and what we'll do here is we'll go ahead and export page 2, and we're exporting that as a PNG. Simply drop down to your area here and export page 2. Set the file name, hit save, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go to Canva, and we're going to create a design. And in this, we're going to create a custom design, 8.5 by 11. And what I'm going to do here is I'm simply just going to upload the images. Of course, you click upload, you upload your media, you select the device, bring in those two PNGs right there. Then when those upload, you'll see that you are able to add those in. Of course, if you want to add another page here and add this one, and at that point, what you're doing here is you're just using Canva. And again, I'm going back and forth with Canva and Affinity Designer as I learn Affinity Designer, but I'm more comfortable inside of Canva doing the rest of the work, to include bringing this page in here, centering the PNG that we created, and then even adding a new page, moving that page up, making this my cover page. Of course, here, this would be your cover page, or making it the Spell Book Belongs To page, and then people can fill in their information here. Of course, you would go here and you would work to make sure you stay in that same kind of script idea. Of course, you could match the fonts by downloading the font or uploading the font into Canva if you have the Pro version. But you get the idea. What we're doing here is now we're creating the book, or we're finishing the book that we started in Affinity Designer. Because in Affinity Designer, we wanted to download that tangent template, change these fonts, add in a second page, and then export those as PNG. Then simply bring those back into Canva, because I said at this point, for me, manipulating this and coming in and adding this page or duplicating this page right here and then working within Canva, it gives me the ability to duplicate these pages with ease. As you can see right there, I can duplicate the pages, and at that point, I can work on spreading out the pages in the book the way I want them. So of course, the Spell Book Belongs To, which is your cover page or your title page, whatever you like to call it. Then you have your spell paper. This book would be for notes. And of course, you could drag this over. So 2 pages of notes and then another spell, and then more pages of notes right here. And of course, you could just keep duplicating that and lay out and work out the spread. Because at this point, like I said, my knowledge or inside of Affinity Designer, you can't duplicate or play with pages like you can in Affinity Publisher, but we are working on learning Affinity Designer, and this is a simple, quick, get started guide. And the goal here is to create a book, get the book made, make it unique, make it quality by working inside of the tools that we know how to use. Again, going back to the research, it started off with Amazon and Spell Book for New Witches. Going inside of Tangent Templates, looking for pages that work inside of this book. For example, the spell paper. Taking that into Affinity Designer, getting started with the basic idea of just simply coming in here, working with the fonts after you ungroup all these elements, and then creating a second page and then dropping in the image and converting those to PNG. Back to Canva to actually create your book, download as print PDF, download that. Then once that is downloaded, go ahead and open that. And then you would have your PDF manuscript right there that you are ready to upload to Amazon KDP after you create your cover. So if this quick start guide was helpful to get you started with Affinity Designer and really understanding what it is you're doing with Affinity Designer and how powerful it can be once you learn the tool, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I look forward to making more of these. I look forward to hearing your comments or any tips that you have for me and the rest of the community here around Affinity Designer and or Affinity Publisher as we move on with this series. Also, the first video that I did around Affinity Designer and this concept right here on the screen, click it, watch it. I look forward to seeing you there, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.